and it was under his watch where the change took place. Mr. Speaker, the rules are set by the federal government, and Mr. Speaker, if the Bridgetown community wishes to put that in writing and send a formal request to the department or a request to the department for a formal response, I'll see that a detailed one is prepared.
The honourable member for Annapolis on your first supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to tell the minister that it was actually under this government that this program changed. And I don't know who's running your department, but there's been many applications sent in for Bridgetown regarding the fire hall. So do you want them to send you another one? Mr. Speaker, the Bridgetown Fire Hall should not be forced to have to incorporate as a non-profit society to be considered for funding, and neither should any other fire department in this province. Fire halls are a fundamental and important piece of infrastructure in our communities in Nova Scotia. And yesterday, the minister said that Truro received funding under this program. So my question is the minister, does the minister think that other communities should be forced to change their fire halls to development associations so that they can qualify for funding, or should they be treated like Truro?
The Honourable Minister of Service, Nova Scotia and Municipal Relations.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's important to clarify that Truro did receive funding under the previous program. That program was terminated and a new program was developed. The new program, which was developed by the formal federal government, Liberal, did not include fire halls as eligible things. They moved from basically, what would you say, physical buildings to more green projects.
The honourable member for Annapolis on your final supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, in response to my question, the minister said he would write the federal government and ask for fire halls to once again be included in the infrastructure program. Mr. Speaker, I thank the minister for that. But I think the minister should go further than simply writing a letter to his cousins in Ottawa. Bridgetown needs a new fire hall so firefighters can properly respond to emergencies. So my question is, will the minister commit to actively and aggressively lobbying the federal government to ensure that fire stations will once again be included in the infrastructure program?
The Honourable Minister of Service, Nova Scotia Municipal Relations.
Mr. Speaker, I want to remind the honourable member that those guidelines are normally developed in consultation with municipalities, and I committed yesterday to write to the federal government and suggest that fire halls be included in the next program that is developed, and I will do so.
The honourable member for Queens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Environment and Labour. Mr. Speaker, I would like to table a report working together for ongoing food costing and policy solutions to build food security, published last July by the Atlantic Health Promotion Research Centre. According to the report, the average monthly cost to provide a basic, nutritious diet for a family of 4 here in Nova Scotia is $617.42. The provincial minimum wage is $7.15 an hour. That's at least 80 hours of work each month just to feed your family the basics. Take tax, energy, and transportation costs out of this sum, and there isn't much left for a nutritious diet. Mr. Speaker, when will the Minister of Environment and Labour be announcing an increase in the minimum wage in Nova Scotia?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Labour.
It sounds like a hackneyed response, but it's a true one in this case. Soon, very soon.
The honourable member for Queens on your first supplementary.
Unfortunately, we have heard soon, very soon, far too often. Mr. Speaker, according to the Canadian Community Health Survey, Nova Scotia has one of the highest rates of income-related food insecurity across Canada. Research shows that families surviving on minimum wage jobs cannot eat properly, no matter how carefully they manage their shopping. Single parents from Nova Scotia are 3.3 times more likely than those from the Atlantic provinces to experience food insecurity. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the Minister, how is he going to take this report into consideration when considering the recommendations of the 2006 Minimum Wage Review Committee?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Labour.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you very much for the question. As the member may know, as the member referenced in her question, there is a minimum wage review committee that will be reporting to me at the end of this month, I believe, or perhaps a week after that, consisting of 2 employers and 2 employees. I'm looking forward to hearing from that committee, and will be reviewing their request and their proposals very carefully.
The honourable member for Queens on your final supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, thanks to the valuable work undertaken by the Review Committee, the minimum wage has increased by almost 20% since 2002. However, the fact that Nova Scotian families still can't eat a proper diet on the minimum wage salary shows us the distance we have yet to go. So I ask the Minister to confirm that he will promptly implement any increase recommended by the Review Committee in the minimum wage.
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Labour.
Thank you very much for the question. That review committee was put in place just for that reason, in order to be able to recommend reviews and to bring them forward. It did so, Mr. Speaker, on October 1st, 2005, where it increased the level from 650 to 680, and then again on April 1st of this year to 715. And so I think that the honourable member has a bit of a track record to know that this government will take that proposal from the Minimum Wage Review Committee very seriously and act on it very quickly.
The honourable member for Halifax Atlantic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and my question through you is for the Minister of Health. Malcolm Forsyth is a retired government employee who became paraplegic in 1997. For the past 9 years, his wife has cared for him at home without asking for help from the province. His daughter estimates that her mother this way has saved the province some $540,000. Now, however, Mrs. Forsyth is no longer able to physically lift her husband and needs a $5,000 ceiling lift, which neither her husband's health insurance nor the province will help the family to acquire. My question to the Minister: why has this province not followed the lead of other provinces, putting a technical aids program in place for families like the Forsyths?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we do have a number of programs that can help out in these situations, of course, not to the amount that the member opposite does refer to. I know that we just recently transferred $1 million to the Department of Community Services for these types of renovations and changes to homes. I think if the member opposite would share the information with me, we could see what we could do to help them out.
The honourable member for Halifax Atlantic on your first supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, I believe the Minister knows that I have shared this information with him previously by copy of the letter which I will table, addressed to the Minister from Pamela Forsyth and copied to me. May I table this? The family has been left with the option of putting Mr. Forsyth into long-term care or allowing Mrs. Forsyth to attempt to continue to care for him. She is endangering the health of both in the process. The Premier has publicly stated that his government's goal is to keep people in their own homes. For want of this $5,000 lift, it cannot be done. I would like to ask the Minister, why has his department and the Department of Community Health not coordinated programs so that such families as that of Mr. Forsyth are not forced to put the disabled Nova Scotian family members into long-term care prematurely?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this underlines an issue that we've been talking about a lot over the last number of weeks in regards to bed placements in province, the expanding of our long-term care system. But I think, Mr. Speaker, what we have not talked about over the last number of weeks is the other changes within the continuing care strategy that look towards keeping more of our seniors in their homes by providing them with certain services, whether it be through home care or whether it be through equipment that the member opposite does refer to.
The honourable member for Halifax Atlantic on your final supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, I hope that answer actually means that the Forsyths will soon be hearing that there is, in fact, help available for them in order to keep Mr. Forsyth in his own home. This government does say that people should stay in their own homes, but so far has not been willing to provide the help for Mr. Forsyth to allow this to happen. My final question then is, when will the minister admit that the desire to keep people in their own homes is so far solely at the family's financial and personal expense?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this province and this department works very hard through our long-term care facilities, works very hard through our home care services, the millions and millions of dollars that we spend on a yearly basis to make sure that we help keep seniors in their homes, to make sure that respite options are available, to help families help their own families. Mr. Speaker, we are here to do the best that we can do, but through the continuing care strategy, we'll look at the expansion of all these services.
The Honourable Member for Halifax Clayton Park.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, my question today is for the Minister of Immigration. In the Nova Scotia Immigration Strategy, which was published January 2005, on page 17 it states as one of its goals that, and I quote, that they will work with the Nova Scotia Department of Education and the regional school boards to ensure that the language needs of immigrant children are addressed. Learning English, Mr. Speaker, for the newcomers to Canada is the most important need that these families have in order to settle in our province. My question is quite straightforward, Mr. Speaker. Can the minister tell this House what steps have been taken to ensure that the ESL needs of immigrant children are addressed?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And in 2005, the Department of Education carried out a needs assessment on ESL in our school systems. At that point in time, it was recognized that more funding was needed. At that point in time, there was $250,000 from the Department of Immigration and $100,000 from the Department of Education. Mr. Speaker, this government increased that budget this year by approximately 40%.
The Honourable Member for Halifax Clayton Park on your first supplementary.
It's interesting that the minister mentions that the needs assessment was done. I don't think that the 40% comes anywhere near meeting the gap that was identified in that needs assessment. It's good to hear about increases in funding, I will say that, but this is an urgent need for newcomers to our city and to our province. And I would like to ask the minister again, does the minister actually believe that this amount of funding is meeting the needs of the newcomers to Nova Scotia?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, the province made a commitment to increase the amount of money provided for ESL in our school system. Mr. Speaker, we did that. We committed more than $200,000 in additional funding in this year's budget.
The Honourable Member for Halifax Clayton Park on your final supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, the government has set a goal of getting 3,600 immigrants per year to arrive in Nova Scotia by 2010, and they hope to retain 70% of those newcomers. At Rockingham Elementary School in my riding, with even the neediest students get only 45 minutes a week of help with ESL. This has already caused some families to settle in other areas. My final question to the minister is, why would the minister expect immigrants to settle and stay in Nova Scotia if we can't properly address their ESL needs of their children?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, in this budget alone, we increased our settlement funding by more than $500,000. Mr. Speaker, this is a considerable amount of money, as well as putting an additional $200,000 in ESL in our school system. I'm sure that any minister here and any department would love to see a 40% increase in their budget for a program.
The Honourable Member for Hants East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question will be for the Minister of Health, and I approached the Minister 3 weeks ago today on behalf of Elva Brimacombe. Mrs. Brimacombe was a recipient of home care services in Shubenacadie until she went to visit her daughter in Alberta, and while there, she broke her leg. Upon her return, she stayed with her son and daughter-in-law until she was well enough to return to her apartment in Shubenacadie. At that time, Mrs. Brimacombe was denied home care service because her stay in Alberta caused a break in home care service for 7 days, which put her at the bottom of the list of recipients. So my question to the minister, can the minister please explain to this House and to Mrs. Brimacombe how, despite previously receiving home care, she is now being denied when her need is even greater?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as the member opposite knows, that home care services for each area are booked on hourly basis, making sure that we have the correct amount of service for all the individuals requiring home care services. The policy clearly states that if there is a break in service for over a week, that they are taken off that list and put somewhere else if they ask for it again. Mr. Speaker, I know that the case the member brings forward is unfortunate, and I'm still looking into the matter to find out when the service might be reinstated.
The honourable member for Hants East on your first supplementary.
Well, he said two things there, Mr. Speaker. One he said was all recipients, and the other said looking into the matter, but I don't think he's looking very far. Mr. Speaker, I told Mrs. Brimacone 3 weeks ago that I had spoken to the minister on her behalf and that someone would be calling her on this issue. Well, she's still waiting. Elva Brimacone is a 79-year-old woman who lives alone and recovering from a broken leg and previously had home care services. So I wanted this minister to explain what compassionate Tory policy would allow a 79-year-old woman who was recovering from a broken leg, living alone, would deny her home care service. Explain that policy.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And the member opposite knows full well that there are a number of people sitting on that list. There are a number of people waiting to get home care services. So we are trying to take care of as many people as we possibly can. Because of the human resource issues that we do have, there are only so many people to go around.
The honourable member for Hants East on your final supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, the minister has clearly identified the problem. Why doesn't he fix it? So I want to ask the minister, when will you change this ridiculous policy and provide the needed help to people like Mrs. Brimacone? It's pretty simple.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I know the member opposite feels that this is a simple issue, but Mr. Speaker, it really has to do with the human resources being available, making sure that we have the individuals that can go out to the homes and provide the service. It has no real bearing on the amount of money that we're providing to the agency that's providing the service. We just simply need the warm bodies in order to go out and do the work. We need to have correct and trained individuals that can actually go out and do the home care services that these folks require. So I don't know if the member opposite is suggesting maybe that we should just take anyone off the street and get them to give service. I think what we're trying to do is making sure that we have a good home care system, and all of that is being dealt with within the continuing care strategy.
The honourable member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Health. We all know that pharmacare programs and the pharmacare program in this province are not accessible, Mr. Speaker. The minister himself stated earlier this month that there are 160,000 Nova Scotians without drug coverage in this province, Mr. Speaker. Many individuals who are eligible for the seniors pharmacare program, however, cannot afford the co-payments. Individuals pay $30 per prescription to a maximum of $360, plus an annual premium of up to $400, Mr. Speaker. This is too much money for low-income seniors to pay. So my question to the Minister of Health, what do you plan to do to make the seniors pharmacare program more affordable and accessible for all seniors living in Nova Scotia?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, we have referenced a number of occasions the Working Families Pharmacare Program, one that our Premier has been so diligent in making sure that we provide by 2008. Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to do our work there. The member opposite references a $30 issue. As far as I understand through the Pharmacare Program, that the copay is about 30%. So I offer the member opposite to provide me with details or maybe a receipt to show me the $30.
The honourable member for Sackville-Cobequid on your first supplementary.
The Minister of Health better watch what he asks for. He may be inundated with a lot of receipts from seniors, Mr. Speaker, who find it hard to pay for their prescriptions here in this province, Mr. Speaker. When people cannot afford their co-payments, they become less compliant about taking their drugs, or they choose between food and their needed medications, Mr. Speaker. They're doing this on a daily basis in this province. Improper use of medications create an environment where individuals require more trips to the overcrowded emergency rooms, more reliance on nursing home beds here in this province, Mr. Speaker. So my question is to the Minister of Health. When is your department going to realize the gravity of the pharmacare situation in Nova Scotia and move towards keeping people on their meds and out of hospital beds, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And the member opposite knows also that within the pharmacare program that we do take care of folks over to the age of 65. That it is, of course, income tested. If the member is receiving GIS, they don't pay the premium at all, and do pay a premium and do pay the copay. Mr. Speaker, we are trying to do the best that we can with the funds that are available to our department. Mr. Speaker, we continue to work with, of course, the Senior Citizen Secretariat as well as the Group of 9 to ensure that we're being fair and equitable to all seniors in this province.
The honourable member for Sackville-Cobequid on your final supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think the Minister of Health understands what seniors go through every day in this province, Mr. Speaker. Some of them have to pay up to $700 for co-payments or for the premiums just to belong to the senior pharmacare program, Mr. Speaker. They're choosing between taking medication and food and heat, Mr. Speaker. And that's something that seniors in this province need help with, and help from this government in order to live in our province, Mr. Speaker. So I think the government needs to act on this and put the interests of seniors first in this
Order,
province.
please. The time allotted for question period has expired. The honourable leader of the Liberal Party on an introduction.
Mr. Speaker, no, just on a point of order, I'm sure that the Minister of Health Promotion didn't want to give the House false information during his answer. Just to advise him and advise Hansard that Advance did meet with the Liberal caucus immediately after their meeting with the PC caucus, just for the record to indicate that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Health Promotion and Protection.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I certainly wouldn't want to mislead the House, but what I was referring to was Advance Nova Scotia Association. The honourable member met with the dealers. There was a representative from Advance, but I do know that the communications spokesperson for Advance contacted me directly and indicated that he had tried to set up a meeting in November, but was delayed until January and has no firm date for a meeting with the critic opposite, Mr. Speaker.
Take that as a matter of a difference of opinion between two honourable members. The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources on an introduction.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today we have two distinguished volunteers in the gallery. They represent the Shubenacadie Canal Commission. The Shubenacadie Canal is an important part of Nova Scotia's heritage. It was built almost 200 years ago, and I would like all members of the House to please welcome John O'Connor, who is the chairman, and Alan Billard, who is the director. And if the gentleman would stand up and please accept the appreciation of the House.
Indeed, welcome to all our guests in the gallery today. The Honourable Member for Cape Breton South.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today in your gallery we have 5 members of the Professional Firefighters Association. The International Association of Firefighters really is their proper term. And we have Mr. Mark Bettens, Jody Rathall, and Fred Doucette from the CBRM Fire Department. And we have Pete Smith and Steve Saxon from the Truro Fire Department, and they are here, Mr. Speaker, to watch their bill proceed through the House today, and it will be my pleasure in a few moments to move third reading of that bill. In the meantime, I would ask them to stand and receive the warm welcome of the House.
The Honourable Minister of Health on an introduction.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the East Gallery, I just want to say hello to a friend of this province, Rosalind Heyman. She just moved in from Toronto to set up a naturopathic medical practice with a current physician in Clayton Park. I want to welcome her back to the province and wish her well in her new practice here in Nova Scotia. Welcome.
Government business. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to call the order of business private members' public bills for third reading.
Private member public bills for third reading.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I'm just trying to find the bill number. Bill number 91, the Trade Union Act. The Honourable Member for Cape Breton South's bill.
Bill number 91, the Trade Union Act. The Honourable Member for Cape Breton South.
Mentioned earlier, Mr. Speaker, it is my Bill number 91, the Trade Union Act. It's a pleasure for me to stand in my place here today and move third reading of this bill. As you know, the bill has proceeded through the House and they're with much interest from the firefighters who I introduced a few moments ago and are here with us in the gallery. So I know they're anxiously waiting for this bill to pass through the House, so I would now move third reading of Bill 91.
The honourable member for Cape Breton Nova.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I too have been waiting for this bill to go through, and I congratulate the member for Cape Breton South on doing this bill in public safety. Firemen put their life on the line each and every day in our communities, and knowing quite a few members in my riding, Mr. Speaker, and having two stations, guys like Ray McDonald and Joey Pike and Frankie Jacobs and Terry Moore, and also the members Mark Betton and Jody Rathall have been looking forward to this bill, and this bill will only improve the health and safety of the residents that the member from Cape Breton South and myself represent, and I too am looking forward to this bill and moving forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Glace Bay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's just very briefly my pleasure to rise in support of this bill. If nothing else, this bill, Mr. Speaker, will keep Mr. Bettens busy. And I don't see that as being a bad thing, Mr. Speaker, let me tell you. But I want to congratulate in particular all of the firefighters, but in particular Mr. Bettens for his hard work and diligence in making sure that this piece of legislation came before this chamber and that it will pass today, and I offer my congratulations to him and his fellow firefighters. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the honourable member for Cape Breton South. There will be a closed debate.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure to move third reading of Bill 91.
The motion is for third reading of Bill number 91. Is the House ready for the question? All those in favour of the motion, please say aye. Contrary, nay. The motion is carried.
Bill 91.
Bill 91, entitled An Act to Amend Chapter 475 of the Revised Statutes 1989, the Trade Union Act.
Order that the bill do pass. Order that the title be as read by the clerk. Order that the bill be engrossed. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like that I would ask that the House now resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole House on bills.
The motion is for the House to move into the Committee of the Whole House on bills. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Motion is carried.
Order, please. The Committee on the Whole House on Bills is now called to order. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to call bills in Committee of the Whole, public bills in the Committee of the Whole House. And the first bill I would like to call is number 5, the Degree Granting Act. I would mention to members of the House that we're going to need to go through this a little slowly because there are a number of mistakes in some of the copies of legislation circulated by the Office of the Legislative Counsel. We acknowledge that there are some things and we need to go through slowly to make sure we all want to get it right. So I just ask everybody's indulgence.
Thank you. Bill number 5. The Honourable Member for Cole Harbour Eastern Passage.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With regard to this bill, our caucus has 3 amendments. I'm just on title explaining this for the House. One of them involves amendments to 3 clauses. I would ask, with the consent of the House, that when we get to Clause 2, which is the first one, that we also are able to move the amendments so that they are done in unison for that one amendment, if that's okay. Well, everyone can agree except the Government House Leader. The first amendment we're going to move actually addresses 3 clauses, Clause 2, Clause 3, and Clause 4. And I'm asking that we be able to submit that as one amendment that we can vote on in unison, if that's possible. That's the one, don't worry. You'll know when you get it, so we'll explain it.
So we do Clause 1 first. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Chair, I have no objection to that being moved, the three clauses together, and we can deal with a single vote.
Okay. So first of all, we have to deal with Clause 1. Shall Clause 1 carry? Clause 1 carry? Carry. Now, as I understand, the clause number 2 has been amended. Clause 2, 3, and 4. Is that correct? Thank you. The honourable member for Cole Harbour Eastern Passage.
Thank you. With regard to clauses 2, 3, and 4, I'm distributing now amendments to which would say CWHB NDP 1. Excuse me. And I'm going to move the amendment, and my colleague, who's our critic for post-secondary education, will speak on it only for a couple of minutes. But this is an amendment that would delete H and substitute G in paragraph 2C, would delete altogether section 4 of chapter 123, and then would add clarity that would say, for greater certainty, nothing in this act affects the limitations set out in section 3 on the authority to grant degrees and to propose of this section. The purpose of this section is to set out a process for the consideration of amendments to that section to authorize additional educational institutions to grant degrees. The intent of this amendment, in amending those three sections, would be that the Department of Education under this bill would still have the power to go through the process of applications, of evaluation, of due diligence with regard to applicants, but the final approval of any matter with regard to approval of a degree-granting institution remains with the legislature, and I so move, and my colleague may have a few comments to make.
Thank you. The honourable member for Halifax, Halifax Citadel. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to speak for a couple of minutes on this amendment. Essentially, the principle behind this amendment is really a principle that goes back an awfully long way in the history of universities, and that is the principle of academic freedom. Especially the principle of academic freedom says that universities get their charters and get their authorities and get their independence by acts of the legislature and not by the grant by the departments or the ministers themselves. And it's to separate the partisan, the activity of politics from the role of the university itself, which is to conduct, to teach, to research, to promote scholarship without fear or favor or affection of the government in place at that time. So it's a very important tradition. It's what universities rest on, especially cutting-edge universities that sometimes have to run afoul of the government to promote social progress and social ends. And also, all of the interveners who spoke at the law amendments, university teachers, staff, students, unions, spoke in favor of this amendment, Mr. Speaker, because they wanted to defend the prerogatives of the legislature itself. This change in legislation is unprecedented. Each and every one of the degree-granting institutions that currently exists in Nova Scotia, Mr. Chair, received that authorization from the legislature itself. And this legislation proposes to change that. And what we want to do is protect that precedent. We don't want to set a new precedent. And essentially, it's a recognition of the separation of the universities from the government in power at this place. And so I move that we accept these recommendations because they're fundamentally important and they're in keeping with our traditions, and it's in keeping with what we've heard at the Law Amendments Committee from the various stakeholder groups.
Thank you. Motion before the committee is the amendment, the clause 2, 3, 4 as amended. Carry? No? Okay. Clause 2 and 3, 4 as amended, defeated. So returning back to clause number 2 of the original bill, shall clause 2 carry? Carry. Shall clause 3 carry? Carry. Shall clause 4 as amended by law amendments carry? Carry. Clause 4? Pardon me. The honourable member from Cole Harbour Eastern Passage on clause 4.
Thank you. And just so that the other House leaders know, I'm now going to be dealing with NDP 3 because in chronological order, it comes under Clause 4. NDP 2 is a new clause. So, Mr. Chair, I'm going to move clause the CWHB NDP 3, which is an amendment to Clause 4, 81H, in which right now the bill says that one of the regulatory powers that the government would have with regard to approval and review of degree-granting institutions includes the ability to delegate some of those powers to a third party. Doesn't define what a third party is. And from our caucus's perspective, we're worried about the possibility of organizations not affiliated with government who may be able to be part of this process in a way that could, again, as my colleague from Halifax Citadel noted, may involve the ability of, may question the academic independence. So we would like to delete the words a third party in set clause 81H and substitute the Nova Scotia Advisory Board on Colleges and Universities. This is, again, a board that's constituted by the government, appointed by the government, so we can ensure that the third party that does the reviewing is the body the government has created to do that kind of work. I so move, but my colleague from Halifax Citadel may have a couple of comments to make.
The honourable member from Halifax Citadel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, and following on what I've said earlier about the previous amendment, this practice of having an independent board, an independent agency, set the criteria to establish these standards is, again, where we are in terms of custom, where we are in terms of precedent. In conversation with the bureaucracy in the Department of Education, they have assured us that, in fact, this is the practice they intend to follow, that it is the Board of Colleges and Universities and the Maritime Provinces Higher Education Council that will set these standards. And I'm wondering why it is that if the bureaucrats insist that this is the process they're going to follow, why not just entrench it in legislation as it is with all of the other the universities? In other words, we shouldn't treat these new universities any differently, that we should follow that practice. And if the minister intends to continue to follow that practice, why not entrench it in legislation now?
Thank you. So the question has been called. So the motion on the floor is Clause 4 as amendment proposed by the honourable member from Cole Harbour Eastern Passage. Shall the Clause 4 as amended proposed be carried? No. Okay. Amendment defeated. So we're returning back to the original clause number 4 that was amended at law amendments. Shall clause 4 as amended carry? Carry. Shall clause number 5 carry? Carry. Shall the title carry? The honourable member from Cole Harbour Eastern Passage.
Sorry, before we get to title, I do have another amendment that involves, and this will be CWHB NDP 2. It's an additional clause being added at the end of the bill.
Thank you.
And I move that that clause be, and it would say, add the following clause. Section 4, sub 1, subsection 6.1 of Chapter 123 is amended by striking out 2 in the third last line and substituting 20. Subsection 2, subsection 6, sub 2 of Chapter 123 is amended by striking out...
Order, please. We don't have a copy of that.
It was distributed.
Could we get a copy, please?
Let me help you out, buddy.
Thank you. Since this isn't on the record, I can thank the leader of the Liberal Party for helping me out in that cause. Subsection 2, section 6, sub 2 of Chapter 123 is amended by striking out 25 in the last two lines and substituting 250. This clause would increase the penalties to reflect the penalties that we currently have in the provincial government with regard to provincial offences. And the reason is that right now, if this act passes with the current fine structure without this amendment, Mr. Speaker, we would have a situation where we would have an individual could be issuing degrees illegally and would have to pay a $2,000 fine. A corporation could be issuing degrees illegally, which happened in British Columbia not that long ago, and the fine was $25,000 in Nova Scotia. This bill will increase those fines for an individual to $20,000 and for a corporation to $250,000. Again, we think that those are reflective of the current status in this province of fines. I think it removes it from being a slap on the wrist to a significant penalty that people know they'll have to pay if that is what they want to do, and let's hope they don't. But we would like to see these penalties increased, so I so move that.
Thank you. Further speakers? No. Question's been called. The motion before the committee is this additional clause, clause number 6, be added to this bill. Shall all those in favor of the amended clause carry? Carry. All those against? Motion carried. Shall the title carry? Carry. Shall the bill carry? Thank you. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, excuse me. I'd like to call Bill number 14, the Public Service Act.
Bill number 14.
Yes, and there are amendments, Mr. Chair, to the bill that I would like to circulate for members of the House. While I'm speaking on title of the bill, may I suggest that the change, Mr. Chairman, is that the government would like to make the Office of Fisheries and Aquaculture the Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture. And clarify that the Office of Economic Development is in fact a department of government as well.
Thank you.
Yes, so perhaps we can move. I believe the bill has been circulated to members of the committee and with the appropriate changes.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Pictou East.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The separation of the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries and Aquaculture is very commendable. As I stated previously, it was folly for the Conservative government to put the two of them together back in 2000, but I am pleased that these are now separate entities after 6 years of ill-conceived integration. Mr. Speaker, I'm also delighted that the government has listened to the charge that I initially led in this House, that the Fisheries and Aquaculture be the Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture rather than the Office of Fisheries and Aquaculture. Mr. Speaker, what I want to know now is the department going to have its own deputy minister. Perhaps some members are not aware that the DM of Agriculture is now the CEO of the Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture. I say to this House of Assembly, if the department does not have its own DM, I will be back.
Thank you. The Honourable Leader of the Liberal Party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I stand in my place today. I'm certainly pleased to see that the government has recognized the need to have a standalone department rather than Office of Fisheries and Aquaculture. And while I respect the comments made by the member from Pictou East, I believe he arrived in this chamber in July of this year, but I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, since 2003, fishermen in this province have had a champion here in this House, and that champion has been the member from Digby-Annapolis, who has been fighting this very issue ever since he was first elected. And he was standing here in his place for the past 3 years saying that the Department of Fisheries should be a standalone department, that it was too important of a resource, and I want to commend the member from Digby-Annapolis, himself a fisherman, someone who has championed the cause of the people of his riding, someone who has championed the cause of fishermen throughout this province, of coastal communities, the impact that the fishery has as the largest exporter here in our province. And Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity not only in commending the government for doing the right thing and making a department, but certainly in congratulating our member from Digby-Annapolis, who's been a tireless champion. And I believe today the success that's being achieved is in no small way a tribute to what he has been fighting for on behalf of the fishing community for the past 3 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The honourable member for Shelburne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I simply don't want to get into a debate here with my fellow colleagues here, but I think there's been some interesting comments in the last week concerning the fisheries, and I'm very concerned and very supportive of not going in a direction of an office or diluting the Department of Fisheries for Nova Scotia, because I think there should be a higher priority. And some of them wake up or alarm bells are going off when a university professor in Dalhousie suggests that this fishery is going to collapse in 50 years. And one of the largest processors in Nova Scotia suggests that international dragging of the bottom of the habitat does not have one single harmful effect. Them is alarm bells, and I think that we can address this through a stronger department, and we need to strengthen that. And I'm here, and you can start patting everybody on the back, but I think the fishermen across Nova Scotia, and you go speak to the elders, and they'll tell you that the fisheries need to be a priority, not an office. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Aquaculture.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I'm certainly pleased with the comments from the members opposite. And Mr. Speaker, I guess I would have to say that over the past little while, I guess since last February, since we got into a leadership campaign, and our Premier's seen the need. Listen to the agricultural community, listen to the fishing community to make the changes that we're seeing here today. We do have a full-time department now with fisheries. We have a full-time minister that's responsible for fisheries.
Good minister.
We have a full-time minister that's responsible for agriculture. So, Mr. Speaker, it was our Premier that identified the issue by consulting with the industries on both sides and made the departments possible, and I commend him for that. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Digby Annapolis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hopefully for the last comment on this. I don't want to get into a debate either about the fishery right now. I just want to thank everybody, thank the minister, thank the member from Shelburne who's been. I've said for the last 2 or 3 years around here that we should not only have a provincial Department of Fisheries here, we should have the federal Department of Fisheries in one of the best fishing provinces of North America. That's where we should have the Department of Federal Fisheries here. But anyway, I just brought a question up to the minister 2 days ago about the department, and people are concerned about demoting this to an office. And I would say before we think about that again, that we let everybody in the fishing industry of this province have an open say on that. So for now, let's just hang on to this and grow it and make it even better. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honourable members, a complete reprint of the original bill with the suggested changes has been circulated to all members. Shall the clause as disclosed in the bill carry? Carry. Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? Thank you. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Mr. Chair, I'd call now Bill number 61, the Motor Vehicle Act. The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Bill number 61. Question? No amendments. Shall the clause carry? Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I would call Bill number 87, the Consumer Protection Act.
Bill number 87. This bill has been amended. Question has been called. Very minor changes have been added, as I understand. Shall the question has been called? Shall the clause carry? Carry. Shall the title carry? Carry. Shall the bill carry? Carry. 87.
The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would call Bill number 82, the Assessment Act, and by way of information, as I mentioned to the House leaders for both...
92.
Oh, sorry. 92. I said 92. Yeah, the Assessment Act, Mr. Chair, and that there are government amendments which are proposed and would now be circulated to that bill.
Bill number 92. I understand the amendments will be circulated.
There has been an amendment circulated. Now is the one to work from.
Okay. The Honourable the Minister of Service, Nova Scotia and Municipal Relations. Could you indicate to the committee what's being circulated, please?
Mr. Speaker, in essence what it was, when the, Mr. Chair, and when the bill came from law amendments, essentially the amendment had made the legislation retroactive. What the new change, the change that's being circulated now, means that the proposed cap would not take effect until the 2008 taxation year, because 2007 has already, the tax rolls have already been made, and we have not given any notification to municipalities that there be any change. Then we cannot make the change that came from the Law Amendments Committee. The leader of the Conservative, the House Leader of the Conservative Party has checked with the House Leaders, the other two caucuses, and everybody understands what the new change is.
What's that? Thank you. Bill 92. The bill has been reprinted and it contains amendments. Shall the Honourable the Government House Leader?
All the amendments as circulated as a block and can be considered by the House accordingly.
Okay. On a point of order, the Honourable Member for Cole Harbour Eastern Passage.
Thank you. From what I notice here, the only amendments are to Clause 1. That's the only place I see amendments. So can we just move amendments to Clause 1 and then we can go through, do the other clauses after that, just for purposes of how we do it? Thank you.
Thank you. Shall the clause number 1 amended carry? Carry. Shall the remaining clause carry? Carry. Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? Carry. Thank you. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would now call Bill number 94, the Property Valuation Services Corporation Act.
Bill number 94. Shall the clause carry? Carry. Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? Carry. Bill 94. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Thank you. I'd like to call Bill number 95, the Municipal Government Act.
Bill number 95. Question has been called. Shall the clause carry? Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? Carry. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to call Bill 107, the Midwifery Act.
Bill number 107. Question has been called. Shall the clause carry? Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd call Bill 113, the Environment Act.
Bill number 113. Question has been called. Shall the clause carry? Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? Thank you. The Honorable the Government House Leader.
I believe we just did Bill 107. 113?
113.
113, excuse me. 114, please.
Bill number 114. Question has been called. Shall the clause carry? Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? Thank you. The Honorable the Government House Leader.
I call Bill number 115.
Bill number 115.
The Architects Act.
Question has been called. Shall the clause carry? Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? The Honorable the Government House Leader.
Yes. I would call Bill 119, the Elections Act.
Bill number 119. Question has been called. Shall the clause carry? Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? Thank you. The Honorable the Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I would now like to go to the order of business, private and
Private and local
bills for Committee of the Whole House.
Private and local bills.
And I would call Bill number 72, the Halifax Regional Water Commission Act.
Bill number 72. Question has been called. Shall the clause carry? Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? Thank you. The Honorable the Government House Leader.
I would now like to call, Mr. Chairman, Bill number 88, the Richmond Stora Enzo Taxation Act.
Bill number 88. Question has been called. Shall the clause carry? Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? Carry. The Honorable the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that completes all the Committee of the Whole House. Private members. Yes, of course, we wouldn't want to miss those, Mr. Chairman. The first one I would like to call is Bill number 27, the Fisheries and Coastal Resources Act.
The Bill number 27. Shall the clause carry? Shall the title carry? Carry. Shall the bill carry? Carry. The Honorable the Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call Bill number 30, the Members and Public Employees Disclosure Act. And there is my understanding is that there is an error in the copy as circulated to members. And there were amendments made by the Law Amendments Committee.
Bill number 30.
The clerk has those amendments, and yes, that's right. That would be that's right. We're not trying to make a change. Those are already done. And there is also that's the is aware of in Section 8. It would read a minister who is aware that he or she has a conflict of interest, and then the rest would be the same.
The Honorable Leader of the Liberal Party.
If I can just be helpful, Mr. Chair, these changes were made at law amendments, so I believe the clerk does have the amended version, which was all agreed by all parties. So I would just, for clarity's sake, move that there are no amendments based on what came from law amendments. So I would move that the question be called on the bill as amended in law amendments.
Thank you. Question has been called. Shall the clause as amended be carried? Carried. Shall the title carried? Shall the bill carried? The Honorable the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd call Bill 68, the Pension Benefits Act.
Bill number 68. Question has been called. Shall the clause carry? Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? Carry. Thank you. The Honorable the Government House Leader.
Bill 69, the Maintenance Enforcement Act.
Bill number 69.
I'm not
Question
sure if
has
that's one of
been
the ones.
called.
Isn't that one with, I believe, the circulation? There's a circulation error in that bill. Yeah, and perhaps just for clarity for the House, because the copy circulated to the House is...
as amended in law amendments?
Yeah. And perhaps I can just tell the House, just for so everybody's clear.
Thank you.
I think people are, but I just want to... Right. That's right. That's right. Mr. Chairman, for clarity of the members, in paragraph clause 1, amendment to section 60B, the date would be changed to no later than December 31st, 2008, and in clause 60C of the bill, it would read the Minister of Finance and not the Minister of Justice.
Thank you.
And those amendments were made by law amendments.
Question has been called. Shall the clause as amended carry? Carry. Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? Carry. Thank you. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call Bill 70, the Provincial Fish Act.
Bill number 70. Question has been called. Shall the clause carry? Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? Thank you. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call, Bill number 78, the Order of Nova Scotia Act. I know that, Mr. Chairman, you're fond of this act, and we call the question.
Thank you. Question has been called on Bill number 78. Shall the clause carry? Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? Thank you. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call Bill number 80, the Canadian Forces Reservist Civilian Employment Act. And I'm not sure if the copy of that as circulated is correct or not, quite frankly.
Bill number 80.
There was a law amendments. There are no further amendments. Okay.
Has the bill been amended in law amendments? Thank you. Okay. The question has been called. Shall the clause as amended carry? Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? Thank you. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd call Bill 83, the Labour Standards Code. I believe there are amendments proposed to this bill.
Bill number 83.
83, yes.
Question? Only 3? Yep. Okay. Shall clause 1 and 2 carry? Carry. Shall clause 3 as amended? The Honourable the member for Preston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're proposing a change in the clause 3 under a proposed clause, adding clause DA, deleting and substituting the following: restaurants except where an employee is not operating cooking equipment and where safety training for all equipment and adequate supervision is provided, and the person is at least 14 years of age.
Question has been called. Shall clause 3 as amended carry? Carry. Shall the remaining clause carry? Carry. Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? Carry. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Yes, I'd like to call Bill number 86, the Motor Vehicle Act.
Bill number 86. Question has been called. Shall the clause carry? Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? Carry. Thank you. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe, and I'm just checking my list, that this is all the business for the Committee of the Whole House. Yeah. I won't even ask that. Mr. Chairman, I move that the committee now rise and report progress. Substantial progress.
We will do these in a few minutes. Order, please. The chairman of the Committee on the Whole House on Bills reports.
Committee has met, considered several bills, and the following bills without amendment: 61, 87, 94, 95, 107, 113, 114, 115, 119, 72, 88, 27, 30, 68, 69, 70, 78, 80, and 86. Chairman's been instructed to recommend those bills to favorable consideration of the House without amendment, and the following bills with certain amendments, being bills numbered 5, 14, 92, 8, and 83.
Order that these bills be read a third time on a future day. The honourable member for Cole Harbour Eastern Passage.
Thank you. I wonder with the unanimous consent of the House if we can revert back to orders of business presenting reports of committees.
Presenting reports of committees. Is it agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Oh, pardon me. The honourable member for Pictou West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as chairman of the Private and Local Bills Committee, I am directed to report that the committee has met and considered the following bill. Bill number 85, an act respecting the transfer of assets and liabilities of the Nova Scotia Freemasons Home to the Masonic Foundation of Nova Scotia. And the committee recommends these bills to the favorable consideration of the House without amendments.
Report is tabled. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I would move that the bill now reported, just recently reported, number 85, I believe, by the Private and Local Bills Committee, be considered on the order paper by the House with respect to the Committee of the Whole House. And now, Mr. Chairman, I would now move that the House do now resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole House on bills.
Is it agreed? Agreed. We've been going now. The Committee of the Whole House on Bills is now called to order. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to call Bill number 85. What's the name of the bill? Is the Masonic Foundation of Nova Scotia Act.
Bill number 85. The Honourable the Minister of Service, Nova Scotia and Municipal Relations.
Mr. Speaker, there was a change to that, and I just want to make sure that it is in the...
There's an amendment from the committee.
There was an amendment made, and it's incorporated.
Question has been called. Shall the clause as amended be carried? Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Thank you. I would move that the committee do now rise and report considerable progress.
Order, please. The chairman of the Committee on the Whole House on Bill reports.
Committee has met and considered one bill, bill number 85, and the chairman's been instructed to recommend it for favorable consideration of the House without amendment.
Thank you. Order that this bill be read a third time on a future day. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Speaker, rather, I would move that all of the bills that have been approved by the House and Committee of the Whole House today be now considered on the order paper for third reading.
Is it agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Although,
thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to now call the order of business public bills for third reading.
Public bills for third reading.
And Mr. Speaker, excuse me, Bill number 7, the Registered Nurses Act, the Honourable the Minister of Health.
Bill number 7, the Honourable the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I move third reading of Bill number 7, the Registered Nurses Act 2006. In summary, Mr. Speaker, this new legislation will clarify for nurses their role, and it will enable nurse practitioners to better define the scope of practice and how nurses work with other healthcare professionals. The Act will eliminate the barriers facing nurse practitioners while following national standards, and this will enable them to work in collaboration with other healthcare professionals. So, Mr. Speaker, will you please call the vote on Bill number 7?
Question has been called. Is the House ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. All those against? Motion carried.
Bill 7, entitled An Act Respecting the Practice of Registered Nurses.
Order that this bill do pass. Order that the title be as read by the clerk. In order that this bill be engrossed. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I would like to call Bill number 9, the Municipal Government Act, the Honourable Minister of Service, Nova Scotia, and Municipal Relations.
Bill number 9, the Honourable the Minister of Service, Nova Scotia, and Municipal Relations.
Mr. Speaker, this bill ensures that the CSAP students in the Halifax Regional School Board will receive any supplemental funding that JHRM gives to the board in the same proportion as the Halifax Regional School Board students. Mr. Speaker, I move third reading of Bill number 9.
Is the House ready for the question? Question. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Those against? Oh, pardon me. The Honourable the Member for Cole Harbour Eastern Passage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And for the record, on most of these bills on third reading, we'll probably be putting someone up for a minute or two to put something on the record. I know I know this is probably the last day of the House for the session, but we do have to put some stuff on the record for third reading. Well, thank you. I appreciate the Liberal caucus's support of our efforts. With regard to Bill number 9, Mr. Speaker, put simply, this is a bill that came to the House. It's one that the Francophone community in Halifax was looking for fairness and equity with regard to the supplementary funding that is received for people who pay the tax in the former city of Dartmouth and the former city of Halifax. Again, terms that we still have to use 10 years after amalgamation because this government fails to address supplementary funding as a whole, which I find to be a sin and something that in the end a lot of people in this municipality are suffering because of the result. And Mr. Speaker, I would say that we're glad to see this go forward. The Francophone parents who have children attending schools in Dartmouth and in Bedford will benefit from this. I only hope that in the next session we'll have an opportunity to be debating a bill that will resolve this problem once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Halifax Clayton Park.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to say a couple of words on Bill number 9, which does allow the sharing of supplementary funding dollars among both school boards, which have schools in our HRM area. And I think it is important that we recognize the issue of equity and the fact that a long time has gone by with the Francophone parents, school board, and PTAs asking for this to be moved forward. And I believe that it is a proper thing to do given the equity issue. I know that overall supplementary funding will become a problem now for both school boards because each year it does require an annual trip to Halifax Regional Municipality to argue again the benefits of supplementary funding. And as I say, those benefits are many. I spoke today about English as a second language in our schools in all of HRM. And it has many benefits, but it will as well, it does cause some difficulties in terms of securing those funds from year to year. But I do welcome the idea of equity for all students within HRM and certainly within my riding of Halifax Clayton Park. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister responsible for Acadian Affairs.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Simplement, je veux dire un remerciement à tous les intervenants sur ce projet de loi. Sur ce projet de loi, c'est quelque chose qui est venu à mon attention à peu près 8 mois passés. C'est quelque chose que j'ai parlé avec le ministre de Service Nova Scotia et Relations municipales. Et c'est quelque chose qu'on va faire certain que c'est équitable à toutes les personnes ici en HRM pour faire sûr que leur argent de taxes vont à leurs étudiants. Je veux remercier les parents pour porter cette information à nous, pour faire certain qu'on travaille dessus. Remercier la Fédération acadienne pour leur support aux parents et aussi pour leur support au CSAP qui offre des services qui sont incroyables à tous nos enfants acadiens et francophones de la Nouvelle-Écosse. Donc avec ça, je vous remercie pour les interventions de notre fois. Et je regarde pour la troisième lecture de cette loi.
The Honourable the Leader of the Liberal Party.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Et juste pour suivre les commentaires faits par le ministre des Affaires acadiennes, je veux féliciter mon collègue de Halifax Clayton Park qui a suivi cette question très proche. Elle a aussi travaillé très proche avec le conseil scolaire ici à Halifax sur la question des financements des conseils scolaires ici à la municipalité d'Halifax. Je tiens aussi de remercier les parents parce qu'à la fin de la journée, Monsieur le Président, c'est les parents eux-mêmes des élèves qui participent au conseil scolaire acadien provincial qui ont poursuivi en cours la question sur l'équilibrité de financement sur la surtaxe d'éducation qui existe ici dans la municipalité d'Halifax. Alors, je les félicite qu'ils ont permis cette Assemblée de passer un projet de loi sans mettre le processus en cours sur cette question et je félicite le gouvernement pour adresser cette question sans avoir besoin d'envoyer en cours. Et à la fin de la journée, nous attendons tous que les enfants du CSAP et les élèves du conseil scolaire d'Halifax vont recevoir les mêmes services, vont recevoir le même niveau de financement qui existe maintenant ici dans la municipalité d'Halifax. Alors, je félicite toutes les personnes, comme l'a dit le ministre de la Fédération acadienne de la Nouvelle-Écosse et toutes les autres organisations françaises, acadiennes, ici à la province, qui ont donné leur support pour ce projet de loi. Et avec ça, Monsieur le Président, je conclus mes remarques sur le projet de loi numéro 9 sur la troisième lecture. Merci.
Merci. The motion is for a third reading on Bill number 7. Is the House ready for the question? Pardon me, Bill number 9, that's correct. Bill number 9. Is the House ready for the question? Question. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion is carried.
Bill 9, entitled An Act to Amend Chapter 18 of the Acts of 1998, the Municipal Government Act.
Order that this bill do pass, order that the title be as read by the clerk, order that the bill be engrossed. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Would like to call Bill number 11, the Licensed Practical Nurses Act, and that would be the Honourable the Minister of Health.
Bill number 11. The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm just looking up to the gallery and not paying attention. Move third reading of Bill number 11, the Licensed Practical Nurses Act 2006. In summary, Mr. Speaker, this new legislation will help 3,058 licensed practical nurses in Nova Scotia. And this legislation oversees some of the hardest working professionals in our healthcare system. Government is responding to a number of challenges over which the past few years have impacted the healthcare system in Nova Scotia. And Mr. Speaker, this does go in line with, of course, Bill number 7 as well for the registered nurses. So, Mr. Speaker, could you please call the vote on Bill number 11?
Question has been called. The motion is for third reading on Bill number 11. Is the House ready for the question? Question. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion is carried.
Bill 11, entitled An Act Respecting Licensed Practical Nurses.
Order that this bill do pass, order that the title be as read by the clerk, and order that the bill be engrossed. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
I would like to call Bill number 12, the Education Act.
Bill number 12. The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to thank the members of the legislature for their support for this particular bill. As I've stated before, the amendment to this act is designed to maintain high standards in our teaching profession in our province. It will allow for the expansion of corrective and reporting measures, and I would move third reading of this bill. Thank you.
Question has been called for. Is the House ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Contrary, nay. Motion is carried.
Bill 12, entitled An Act to Amend Chapter 1 of the Acts of 1995-96, the Education Act.
Order that the bill do pass. Order that the title be read as a clerk. Order that the bill be engrossed. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to call the Municipal Government Act, the Honourable Minister of Service, Nova Scotia and Municipal Relations.
Bill number 15, the Municipal Government Act.
Bill gives the HRM the power to reduce taxes on any residential properties in any fiscal year, and I move third reading.
Question is called. House ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Contrary, nay. Motion is carried.
Bill 15, entitled An Act to Amend Chapter 18 of the Acts of 1998, the Municipal Government Act.
Order that the bill do pass. Order that the title be as read by the clerk. Order that the bill be engrossed. The Honourable Government House Leader.
No. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to call Bill number 20, the Public Utilities Act. The Honourable Minister of Environment and Labour.
Bill number 20, the Public Utilities Act. The Honourable Minister of Environment and Labour.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I move third reading of Bill number 20, which prohibits Nova Scotia Power from asking for a rate increase in any 12-month period and will help families across Nova Scotia better budget their income.
Question is called for. The House ready for the question. All those in favour of the motion, please say aye. Contrary, nay. Motion is carried. The Honourable...
Bill 20, entitled An Act to Amend Chapter 380, the Revised Statutes 1989, the Public Utilities Act.
Order that the bill do pass. Order that the title be as read by the clerk. Order that the bill be engrossed. The Honourable Government House Leader.
I call Bill number 22, the Motor Vehicle Act. The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Bill number 22, the Motor Vehicle Act. The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Mr. Speaker, I move this bill be now read for the third time.
The Honourable Member for Pictou West.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to briefly rise in support of Bill 22. I do think it's a common sense bill that will protect the general public, will protect our farmers, our farming community, and protect young people that are even driving farm vehicles. And basically, the bill is stating an allowance for a 40-kilometer-an-hour limit. I think that's good for a farm tractor with the reflective triangular sign on it. 20-kilometer-hour limit for if it's hauling a piece of farm machinery or farm equipment, but still allows for a truck to haul farm equipment without these restrictions. But it's all about safety. It's all about keeping our communities on our public roads safer than they are at the present time, and I think it does make sense. So I certainly support this bill at third reading.
Question called. House ready for question. All those in favour of the motion, please say aye. Contrary, nay. The motion is carried.
Bill 22, entitled An Act to Amend Chapter 293 of the Revised Statutes 1989, the Motor Vehicle Act.
Order that the bill do pass. Order that the title be as read by the clerk. Order that the bill be engrossed. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I call Bill number 67, the Apprenticeship and Trades Qualifications Act. The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Bill number 67, the Apprenticeship and Trades Qualifications Act. The Honourable Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would move a third reading of Bill number 67. This is a bill that we believe will contribute to an effective and relevant system that meets the requirements of industry and ensures the safety of Nova Scotia consumers. We believe the changes will benefit our skills tradespeople, our employers, the apprenticeship system, and all Nova Scotia consumers. I move third reading.
The Honourable Member for Timberley Prospect.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think it's important as we go through these bills to put the continuing concerns that have been brought forward on this particular bill to my attention. I think it's of some consequence that I say again for the record that the certificate of proficiency is quite different from the certificate of qualification, and that we are more concerned about the fact that this certificate of proficiency is merely a transitional step on the way to making sure that that red seal of approval that Nova Scotia is known about across this province and across this country and across this continent, that certificate of qualification, that must be the ultimate goal when it comes to the apprenticeship program in this province. That's what we're known for, whether it's health standards, safety standards, or educational standards. And I hope that that will continue to be a goal of this particular Department of Education. Thank you.
For Preston.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm just going to say a couple of words about this bill. I think it's a very positive bill for many Nova Scotians that haven't had the opportunity through the formal education process to be qualified to do a trade or particular trade they have the experience and knowledge in. And I'm very confident after dealing with the department many years in qualification of tradespeople that it will be done properly, and it'll ensure that many families will have income that was not available to them before in Nova Scotia and give us more qualified tradespeople that will help all Nova Scotians. Thank you.
House ready for the question. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion is carried.
67. entitled, an act to amend Chapter 1 of the Acts of 2003, the Apprenticeship and Trades Qualifications Act.
Order that the bill do pass. Order that the title be as read by the clerk. Order that the bill be engrossed. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I call Bill number 84, the Wind Turbine Facilities Municipal Taxation Act, the Honourable the Minister of Service, Nova Scotia and Municipal Relations.
Bill number 84, the Wind Turbine Facilities Municipal Taxation Act, the Honourable Minister of Service, Nova Scotia and Municipal Relations.
Mr. Speaker, I move a third reading of this bill.
The Honourable Member for Cape Breton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a very few words on this. First of all, I think it's, again, worth stating for the record, putting forward the amount of work that UNSM worked on this and unanimity and how they put excuse me, some of their differences aside to get this bill through, and they're to be congratulated. I guess in the real terms, though, someone with a large generating station from Nova Scotia Power in their constituency, we would like to see taxation in a real way in those real properties that the municipalities in which they exist, they would be taxed for that purposes. But other than that, Mr. Speaker, we will be supporting this bill. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Halifax, Clayton Park.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On second reading of this bill, I had risen and raised some concerns about several aspects of the bill, which I'd like to reiterate again today and just say why I'm disappointed with the bill. I know we've said a lot about UNSM working closely with the industry to come up with this solution. I don't really see it so much as a solution as just a lesser of two evils. I think some of the big players in the industry have just felt this is something better than nothing. Let's move ahead. My key concern is it's a win-win for the current players in the industry and for the municipalities who now know what tax they can collect, but it doesn't do anything to advance our cause for the industry and for improving renewables in Nova Scotia. And I think there are a lot of factors. There are other costs too, like provincial taxation, that are big, but this is one of the issues that should be looked at. And I guess what I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, is it should be part of a comprehensive plan for renewable energy in the province. And instead, we're looking at one piece of the puzzle, which is the municipal taxation, which has been a cause of concern for the industry up to this point. But again, I say I don't think that this is advancing the cause for renewable energy in the province, for green energy. I think that it has another significant flaw, and that is that it has a two-tier taxation system in the bill. One, if you're currently in business and have a contract with Nova Scotia Power, and another if you don't. And the difference is $1,000 per megawatt hour for the power generators. So the people investing in wind energy will be paying more in future than the current people in the industry, and I think that that is a significant flaw which should be pointed out. It brings our municipal taxation down significantly, but it leaves us in the middle of the pack with other provinces, and if we're serious about leading the country, and if all the rhetoric we hear about being leaders in green energy is true, then we should be leading the country in having the lowest taxation regime. And so I'm not really happy to see us down at the rate which makes us 3 times the municipal rate of taxes in Quebec and double the rates that are in effect in Ontario. And Mr. Speaker, I'd had the chance to speak to a number of other players in the industry, or would-be players, and they are discouraged by this. We didn't hear from them at law amendments, and I think it's important to note that. Maybe disappointing that they didn't come and express their view, but I think it's fair to say that this is a fledgling industry in our province, and those people are not as organized and perhaps not as organized as lobbyists as they might otherwise be. But I feel it's important that in the House we talk about the fact that this industry needs a lot of cooperation, a lot of work. And if we're serious about what all of us are saying, and I know we are all committed to making a better world, then I hope that we will be looking at some other legislation down the road as well that might make a difference and perhaps make this better, because this is only a first step. It's only dealing with one element of their costs, and I don't believe it's doing it well enough. Under this current tax regime, the wind power generators will be paying about 3% of their gross revenue for taxation at the municipal level. And I guess later we'll look at what that would be at provincial level as well. The other thing I wanted to raise was that these wind turbines are not absorbing any real municipal services. So I think that in many respects the tax is unjustified, and that if they continue to fight it in the courts, that might be proven that they are not unlike the other utilities like Nova Scotia Power or Alliant that use Crown lands and public lands and run their transmission lines and so on. We don't do that with wind power. So I think there are those several reasons why I think it's absolutely not a good bill, and I will not be supporting the bill when it comes through, but I may be alone in my dissension. So I'm just signaling that I myself will not be supporting the bill, and I hope that we'll be able to make more strides forward in the future on green energy. Thank you.
The honourable member for Preston.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too have some concerns about this bill. I think this is a step backwards when we're trying to generate green energy in Nova Scotia and trying to get things moved forward, that we have cleaner energy and be more self-efficient in energy. Allowing the municipalities to tax windmills at this rate is setting a new standard in the province, which I think is not appropriate. And I'm sure that this legislature is going to be faced with this problem in the future. There's going to have to be another bill come back here in the future sometime to correct this situation and make it more possible for wind energy and other renewable energy sources to be used in the province. If we're going to be competitive in the world market, we have to become more energy efficient, we have to have lower cost of energy, and we have to have clean energy. I think the bill does address immediate concern with the companies that are involved, and it takes a huge tax liability away. It does create an uneven playing field for the companies that are in the business now and the new companies that will come in afterwards. And it is costing the taxpayers of the province of Nova Scotia a substantial amount of money to subsidize basically the tax rate for some of the individual companies. So it's all in all, it's not a very good deal for Nova Scotians. And I feel that it needs to be better. I believe that the provincial taxes on windmills and renewable energy sources have to be reduced, maybe eliminated, to ensure that these facilities are encouraged to come here and encouraged to do things. Indeed, in the news today, Nova Scotia Power, if they meet their 20% requirement of renewable energy, claim it's going to cost over $1 billion to do that, and $60 or so million in yearly expenses. And I'm sure that those windmills, if they do put them in place, will be taxed the same way. And again, that's going to put another burden on, and eventually it's going to put the power rates up for Nova Scotians, and that's something we cannot afford to do. But all things being said, I'm going to support this bill only because it does make an improvement in how the taxation is done. It makes it possible for some of these companies to come forward, but this is an issue that has to come back here and really has to be addressed properly so we can put the renewable energy in the forefront in Nova Scotia and really make affordable energy available that's clean to all Nova Scotians. Thank you.
The motion is for third reading of Bill number 84. Is the House ready for the question? All those in favour of the motion, please say aye. Contrary minded, nay. The motion is carried.
Bill 84, entitled an act respecting the municipal taxation of wind turbine facilities.
Order that the bill do pass. Order that the title be as read by the clerk. Order that the bill be engrossed. The Honourable Government House Leader.
I'd like to call Bill number 89, the Provincial Court Act, the Honourable the Attorney General and Minister of Justice.
Bill number 89, the Provincial Court Act, the Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I move third reading of Bill number 89, the Provincial Court Act.
Is the House ready for... Motion is for third reading of Bill number 89. Is the House ready for the question? All those in favour of the motion, please say aye. Contrary minded, nay. The motion is carried.
Bill 89, entitled an act to amend Chapter 238 of the Revised Statutes 1989, the Provincial Court Act.
Order that the bill do pass. Order that the title be as read by the clerk. Order that the bill be engrossed. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'd now like to call, it's out of order for those who are following it, but we have some visitors in the gallery who have been waiting for this bill to be dealt with. Bill number 107, the Midwifery Act, the Honourable the Minister of Health.
Bill number 107, the Midwifery Act, the Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Very pleased to move third reading of Bill 107, the Midwifery Act. If I have your indulgence of the House for a moment, just to make a couple of introductions. From the Midwifery Coalition, I'll ask them to rise and receive the warm welcome of the House. Jan Catano, Catherine Berry, also from the Atlantic Center of Excellence for Women's Health, Marlo Chinier and Dr. Christine Saunier. And I know they've been very patient today in watching the deliberation, so I want to give them the warm welcome to the House. Mr. Speaker, this has been a bill that, of course, has been around for a long time, the discussions of it, and very happy to have brought this one through the House. Mr. Speaker, this is but one step in making the lives of Nova Scotians that much better by offering them medical services that make sense. Mr. Speaker, the midwives have been around for centuries in providing good services to women and to families, and very proud to bring this piece forward. So, Mr. Speaker, I move third reading of Bill 107.
Question.
The honourable member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to have a few words on this bill, Mr. Speaker. I'm glad to see this piece of legislation finally see the floor of this legislature. Many of the individuals have worked very hard, Mr. Speaker, over a number of decades to get to this point. And I want to make it very clear to the government that the midwives and the association and all those involved in this process, Mr. Speaker, are putting great faith in the government. Great faith in the government, Mr. Speaker, to honor some of the commitments that aren't in this piece of legislation, that they'll be true to their word, Mr. Speaker. And I'm reference the funding of midwives and the profession of midwifery in this province, Mr. Speaker. It's instrumental that the government recognize the importance of including this under the Medicare system and under the public system in this province, Mr. Speaker. We know, especially with recent introduction of legislation and some of the comments, Mr. Speaker, over this session, the last session, Mr. Speaker, from the government, from the Minister of Health, around the possibility of private delivery of health care in this province, Mr. Speaker, that I want him to know that our caucus and myself are going to work hard to ensure that the public system is protected in this province and that the public system is funded in this province in the appropriate way, and that the midwives who have worked so hard, and as the minister stated earlier, has been doing this job since the beginning of history, Mr. Speaker, get the recognition and the support they need from the government and from the public health care system, Mr. Speaker. So with those few words, Mr. Speaker, I'll take my seat and I'll look forward to the implications and the inclusion of this profession under the public system here in Nova Scotia, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Glace Bay.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. This is, as my colleague from the NDP has said, this is an important piece of legislation, which has taken a great deal of time to come before this House, which has taken a great deal of patience by the Association of Midwives and midwives throughout this province. It's a lesson you never give up. You never give up. And they know that now. They have not given up over the past decade or more that they've been trying to get this through this House. But now, Mr. Speaker, if I may, the minister knows they have put a great deal of trust and a great deal of faith in you, Mr. Minister, and in your government. And you know now that you have to deliver. You know that unless public funding for midwifery is there, this will not work. No pun intended. Yeah, no pun intended, Mr. Minister. But in this case, Mr. Minister, you and your government know, Mr. Speaker, that unless public funding is there, this will not work. That was made perfectly clear to us by all of the speakers that appeared before the Law Amendments Committee. So, Mr. Speaker, and nothing sinister intended here, but the minister should know that we'll be watching. We'll be watching from here on in, and we know that trust that has been put in you, Mr. Minister, and in your government, that you had better come through on this one. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The motion is for third reading of Bill number 107. Is the House ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Contrary, nay. The motion is carried.
Bill 107, entitled An Act Respecting Midwifery.
Order that this bill do pass. Order that the title be as read by the clerk. Order that the bill be engrossed. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'd call Bill number 5, the Degree Granting Act. The Honourable Minister of Education.
Bill number 5, the Degree Granting Act. The Honourable Minister of Education.
I'd like to move a third reading of Bill number 5, please.
The Honourable Member for Halifax Citadel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this bill, as I've said before, although the minister argues that it's being introduced to prevent and to regulate the creation of private universities here in Nova Scotia, we believe that this bill also provides for the creation of private universities here in Nova Scotia. And to the extent that it allows the minister to create private institutions here in Nova Scotia, we believe that that authority should rest with the legislature. The Honourable House Leader says that this is already the law, but it has never been used, Mr. Speaker. That the 11 degree granting institutions here in Nova Scotia have always drawn their authority from the legislature. The government assures us that they're going to continue with custom and precedent, but we believe that that should be enshrined in the law itself. This bill also allows for the minister to set standards for the creation of these universities, criteria that can be enforceable. And again, the department assures us that they will refer this body to an independent, arm's-length agency, the Advisory Board on Colleges and Universities. We believe that if they are going to stick to their word, it would be just as easy for them to introduce that and to enshrine it in the legislation itself. So we believe, Mr. Speaker, that this bill has to have some legislative oversight, that the creation of private universities has to provide for legislative oversight. It has to have an arm's length agency. It's in accordance with the custom and precedents, and it fits with the demands that have been made by people outside this House and people who spoke at the Law Amendments Committee. Now, I admit that the amendment accepted an amendment that we introduced, that the fines be increased from $25,000 to $250,000. Enforcement is important. Regulation is important, Mr. Speaker. We've seen in British Columbia and Manitoba that the creation of degree-granting institutions and the authorization of degree-granting institutions under legislation very similar to this one has gone astray and gone awry. And we will have to accept the minister's word for it when they say that they do accept the legislature to play a significant role, and we do expect arm's-length agencies like the Advisory Board on Colleges and Universities and the Maritime Provinces Higher Education Council to have a role. Because of these significant gaps in the legislation, Mr. Speaker, I intend to vote against it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Motion is for third reading of Bill number 5. Is the House ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Contrary, nay. Motion is carried.
Bill 5, entitled An Act to Amend Chapter 123 of the Revised Statutes 1989, the Degree Granting Act.
Order that the bill do pass. Order that the title be as read by the clerk. Order that the bill be engrossed. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to call Bill number 14, the Public Service Act. And Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to move third reading of this bill. Mr. Speaker, this clarifies the long-standing issue around the Department of, or now soon-to-be Department of Economic Development, that in fact has always been a department, and it also makes it clear that we have two fully important agencies, the Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture and the Department of Agriculture.
Question.
The motion is for third reading of Bill number 14. Is the House ready for the question? The Honourable Member for Shelburne. For Pictou East. Sorry.
I really want to go on record in relationship to Bill number 14. I think it is commendable that the departments have been divided, that they are entities of their own. As I stated earlier, it was ill-conceived that the two be put together back in the year 2000, and I'm disappointed that it took 6 years to have this ill-conceived integration rectified. Now, I also realize, Mr. Speaker, that other MLAs have long been concerned about the two departments being put together, and especially the member for Digby. and in recent times, the member for Shelburne. But I am particularly delighted that the government has listened to the charge that I initially led on Bill 14 in this House, that Fisheries and Aquaculture be the Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture rather than the Office of Fisheries and Aquaculture. And Mr. Speaker, what I want to know now is, will the department have its own deputy minister? Presently, the Deputy Minister of Agriculture is the CEO of the Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture. And I say to this House that if the department does not have its own DM, there are a number of members on this side of the House that will be back at this government again.
The honourable member for Digby Annapolis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too am glad to rise and speak on Bill 14 on the Department of Fisheries part. I'm glad the minister has reconsidered from downgrading this department to an office, and I commend him on this. I questioned that 2 days ago here in the House because industry is concerned. They're concerned that what this could possibly do to Nova Scotia, where it is one of the best fishing provinces of this country. And I believe Nova Scotia deserves much better in its great fishery than just an office. And maybe that could be looked at later on through the years and see what it all means, because no one really knows what it means, or I've had nobody could explain to me what it means to take a department and turn it into an office. But with the fisheries as well as it is, and as great as it is in this province, and can be and will be much greater if we all work together, which I'm sure we will, and we can double or triple what the income of $1 billion is now to $3 billion if we can all work together. And that's not a guess, that's a fact that can happen. And I would love to have a hand in that, but we certainly need a strong department to make that happen. So with that, I certainly agree on this, and I move third reading from here. Thank you. I'd love to move third reading. Thank you.
The honourable member for Cape Breton South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a few moments on the economic development part of this bill. I think I would be remiss if I didn't rise to my feet and talk in my place here and talk about pardon me? Oh, yeah. Well, you know, what I wanted to say, the honourable minister reminded me I'd never be able to use the line again. The line was referring to the Office of Economic Development instead of the Department of Economic Development. And, Mr. Speaker, I could never figure out why the government changed it in the first place. You know, it was something that I was completely surprised at, because, Mr. Speaker, the most important economic development tool the province had was the Department of Economic Development, and somebody over there in their wisdom decided to reduce it almost to nothing, cut the budget, slashed it for about 3 or 4 years, and then created another organization called NSBI. Now, the confusing part of this whole situation now is we have 2 departments of government giving out money and talking to potential customers in this province. And I would think that along with this bill, Mr. Speaker, which I'm definitely going to support, along with this bill, maybe at some future day, the minister or the premier would come back to this House and dissect the responsibilities of both NSBI and the Department of Economic Development, because all too often we see where a business venture did not fit the so-called mold of NSBI, the Department of Economic Development, or previously the Office of Economic Development, would end up trying to accommodate that particular business. And I think we have to have more firm rules in this House to exactly who is going to deal with prospective people coming and doing business in this province. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I certainly will be supporting this bill.
The The honourable member for Halifax-Shabukto.
Mr. Speaker, it matters little what some particular branch of government is called. It matters a great deal what it does. I want to focus my remarks briefly on what it is that has been going on or not going on in the Department of Fisheries. There are three things that I want to draw to the attention of the honourable members. One is that, of course, fishery, which is so important to our economy, is largely administered legally by the Federal Department of Fisheries and Oceans. Because the primary jurisdiction over oceans rests with the federal government, it doesn't leave a great deal of regulatory room for the province. What room it does leave is room to observe, make observations, do research, and make criticisms of what it is that the federal government itself does or fails to do. And I have to say that we unfortunately hear precious little from our government or from the Office or Department of Fisheries by way of criticism of the federal government's administration and management programs with respect to the offshore. This is an extremely important matter for the nation. It's, of course, vital for our province, and I would hope that under any name, at some point, we will begin to hear a great deal more from that department. Second point is this, that what we do have some administrative jurisdiction over are fish plants. And I have to say that, again, we've heard precious little from that department and seen very little when it comes to effective action to protect the continued operation of fish plants in our province, which are so vital to the rural economy. I hope that under whatever name the department, that government, decides that it's going to take an active role in trying to promote something that has been a very important activity in our rural areas, and I look to them for more. Third point. Third point has to do with this. We observed this week, when questions were raised with respect to an aquaculture operation, that responsibility for making a decision about an aquaculture operation rests with the same department, Fisheries and Aquaculture, that in fact sees as its mandate the promotion of that sector. There should be a distinction made between the function of promotion of a sector and the function of making decisions of a regulatory sort of oversight that are akin to environmental assessment. So what I say is that this government should take a good hard look at removing that decision-making function from that department and moving it to an arm's-length department, moving it to the Department of Environment and Labour. Thank you very much.
The motion is for third reading of Bill number 14. Is the House ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Contrary, nay. The motion is carried.
Bill 14, entitled An Act to Amend Chapter 376 of the Revised Statutes 1989, the Public Service Act.
Ordered that the bill do pass. Ordered that the title be as read by the clerk. Ordered that the bill be engrossed. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to call Bill number 61, the Motor Vehicle Act, the Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Bill number 61, the Motor Vehicle Act, the Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this bill be now read for the third time.
The Honourable Member for Cole Harbour, Eastern Passage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd be remiss if I didn't stand in the House with regard to this bill for a couple of minutes. This is a bill that deals with interlocks in this province and the ability of this government to regulate the ability of people who have been convicted of an offence under the Criminal Code for drinking while impaired to be able to reduce their penalty under the clause so that they can go to a voluntary program, which is use of an interlock on their vehicle. Mr. Speaker, again, this bill was brought forward for political reasons, let's be clear. Because of Mad Canada's report card that came out earlier this year, giving this province a D+, with regard, second worst province in the country with regard to what it has not done with regard to drinking and driving in this province for the last 7 years since they've been in power. This government had to quickly address an issue that should have been fixed last year but wasn't fixed, so they had to come back and fix it this year, and in hopes that they could actually get something passed so that maybe next year the report card would go up to a C-. Well, Mr. Speaker, I think the people of Nova Scotia deserve better than that. I think they deserve legislation that is thoughtful, that takes a look at everything that Mad Canada and other stakeholders have said. We don't see anything in here with regard to zero tolerance or a zero blood alcohol level for the first 5 years of a driver's license. These are things that our party is still eager to see. We hope we'll see them in the near future. It's unfortunate the government was so quick to rush and react to a Mad Canada report instead of taking time to think about it, so that we as a province would have thoughtful legislation that addresses the concerns of those who are particularly interested in these issues, and so that the people of our province are safer on our roads. Thank you.
The honourable member for Annapolis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to stand and say a few words on Bill number 61. All of our constituencies and all of our communities have been impacted by impaired driving. Unfortunately, all of our probably family and intimate networks have been impacted by impaired driving. And when this piece of legislation came through, and when we begin to talk about the issue of impaired driving in this House, Mr. Speaker, I don't think we should be moving towards weakening the laws around impaired driving. And I've struggled, quite frankly, as members of my own caucus know, and the minister knows, with this particular bill. At very best, I can consider this bill to be neutral. At very best. It has been a difficult one. I believe we are setting a precedence to set a law for the rich and a law for those that are not so fortunate financially. Mr. Speaker, this entitles a rich Nova Scotian, quite frankly, to reduce a 12-month sentence to a 3-month sentence. Is that really what we should be doing around this issue? I don't believe so. I'm taking the word of members of this House that that this issue may come forward again, hopefully. It's one that I think we cannot back away from. Mr. Speaker, it's not that I am opposed to the interlock system, but I believe if a wealthy Nova Scotian, quite frankly, has the option to buy into reducing his suspension or her suspension from 12 months to 3 months, then that interlock device needs to be on that vehicle much longer than the 9 months that is there. And I also believe that at any time during that suspension, that if they blow a failure on that device reads a failure, then that suspension should start over again from that day. Mr. Speaker, this issue is devastating to families across this province. We should be making sure that anything we do around the issue of impaired driving, the issue of driving under the influence of alcohol, that we deal with it with the severity that it should be dealt with. Mr. Speaker, I am going to support this legislation with some reservation, but I'm going to support it because Mad Canada, at best, is giving this a neutral grade. But I want to caution this House, and I want to be on record as saying that I have some grave reservations about this bill. We should not be creating a two-tier justice system in this province, Mr. Speaker, one for the rich and one for those not so fortunate financially. So with those few comments, Mr. Speaker, I will take my place and revisit this issue in the spring.
Motion is for third reading. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I rise to make a couple comments in regards to the bills before the House. Mr. Speaker, I think I, as well as some other members in this House who were former members of VHS, probably more so than anybody else in this House, can talk about the issues around the devastation of impaired driving. I've had to deliver messages to families as a result of things that have happened to their family members, as a result of those who have made a decision to drink and drive. So, Mr. Speaker, you know, for someone to get up in the House and suggest this is just a result of politics and we're just responding to a knee-jerk reaction to an issue before the House, I think that's irresponsible, Mr. Speaker, and I think it's wrong. And it's not right for the House. Well, you know what, Mr. Speaker, I gave the honourable member the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I gave the honourable member the opportunity to stand and speak, and I'd asked him for the same respect. Mr. Speaker, I gave the honourable member the respect of listening to him. Could he please give me the same?
Order, please. The Honourable Minister of Justice has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I think the honourable member's time might be a little tight. You might want to relax for a minute and just listen to something from experience that I've had. That's right. No, you haven't. So, Mr. Speaker, as the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, as this House will know, a lot of this legislation falls under other departments. I've made a commitment, Mr. Speaker, to work with Mad Canada, to the folks here in this province and the national organization, to try to do what we can to review the issues that are before not only this legislature, Mr. Speaker, but other legislatures and, in fact, federal government to do what we can to support any initiatives we can to make it tougher on those who would decide to drink and drive. Mr. Speaker, this last couple of weeks we've had police officers training to, in fact, take part and benefit from the result of the federal government's initiative to charge those who would decide to take drugs while they drive, Mr. Speaker. There are many initiatives undertaken right now in this province that the Department of Justice and this government deserve credit for, Mr. Speaker, and I can tell you that we as a government, and I as Minister of Justice, will do everything I can to ensure that the right thing is done in this case, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The motion is for third reading of Bill number 61. Is the House ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Contrary, nay. Motion is carried.
Bill 61, entitled an act to amend Chapter 293 of the revised statutes 1989, the Motor Vehicle Act.
Order that the bill do passed. Order that the title be as read by the clerk. Order that the bill be engrossed.